Namaskar, Dada.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, everybody. Thank you for joining us again here on Tantra Thoughts. Today I'm interviewing Dada Rainjitananda, who is a teacher and teaches Tantra. We're going to be talking about Tantra and Microvita. So thanks for joining us, Dada.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're a monk of Ananda Marga.
Yes.
So please tell us a little bit about what is Ananda Marga and what is your role as a Dada, which is the name for a monk in Ananda Marga.
Okay, Ananda Marga actually is a way of life. Marga, which means the way or the path, and Ananda means bliss or infinite happiness. So the idea here, in contrast with other ways of life and philosophies that talk about suffering, in Ananda Marga the idea is moving towards bliss, or moving towards infinite happiness, or moving towards self-realization. As an organization, we exist to make people know it, or teach it practices so that people can have the means to move on this path towards happiness, or inner happiness, infinite happiness. And my role as a monk, and we say Dada actually means brother. So my role is, I don't have family attachments, so I can go anywhere in the world, anytime. And in the past I have been to places like Greenland or places in Africa, because this philosophy of this knowledge belongs to the humanity. And so we cannot neglect that because somebody is born in Greenland, in a very remote village, that he or she should not have access to this knowledge.
And the ideas that you're talking about in Ananda Marga is largely coming from Tantra.
Yes. Right. What is Tantra? Tan means to expand, and Tra means to liberate. So the idea is to expand the mind, therefore small ideas just break apart. Limited ideas, ideas of separation between human beings, and ideas of exploiting other human beings. So all the small ideas just break because your mind is expanding, is becoming more universal. So Tantra is a practical process how this can happen, how this expansion can happen.
Okay. Do you want to give us some more details about that? How would somebody that practices Tantra expand their consciousness?
Okay. The basic idea is, as you think, so you become. So meditation is to think about the infinite. As we think about material objects, we become more materialistic. But if we think about, let's say, the supreme consciousness, it means it's a very large idea, very abstract idea in the beginning, but just to have a method to think about it, it already starts expanding the mind. And it brings this idea that we are all part of this same infinite consciousness. So that's already bringing people closer together. In Tantra, there is a very deep analysis of the mind. And to understand better the mind, it is kind of divided in, let's say, chambers. And starting from the conscious mind, and then going to the subconscious mind, and beyond. And if we can develop these different layers of mind, or purify them, or calm them down, then mind gets expanded. As an example, if you go in front of a lake, okay, sit by a lake, and the surface of the lake is very agitated, plus the water is not so clear. When you look at this lake, you will only see the surface, and you will think that that's it. But if that water is very calm and crystal clear, when you look at that same lake, you will see that inside there are fish, there is vegetation, there are so many other things that you never thought were there before. So in the same way, the mind is like that. the surface of the mind is very agitated, we think that that's it, and there is nothing more. But the moment I can calm it down, it kind of opens a new dimension, and I see that there is more. And as the deeper you go, you start discovering new dimensions. And each of these dimensions is more expanded than the previous one. Like the subconscious is more expanded than the conscious. As an example, when people dream, many times the experience that they get in the dream is much more vivid, more involving than the experience they get when they are awake.
Really?
Like the dream seems much more intense than living in the daily life.
I never thought about that
experience?
I never thought about that, Dada. I'm thinking of my dreams right now. If it feels more real than when I'm here.
You are in a dream, you get really involved into it, and then you wake up, and the life is again, let's say, flat. No, that's in a certain way, because in the dream you are in the subconscious mind. So the limitations of the senses, which are in the conscious mind, are not there. So your experience is more intense. Now, that is just going from conscious to subconscious. Now imagine going from subconscious to the deeper layers. It will be similar.
What would you call the deeper layers?
Well, you can use the word superconscious in the sense that it's beyond, or you can use the word unconscious. Okay, but even these words, like say conscious, subconscious, and unconscious, there are some limitations. And in our philosophy, sometimes we use like supramental for the third layer, because it's like beyond mental.
It goes into the realm of the spiritual, the realm of the divine, or?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Let's say there is conscious, subconscious, then let's say supramental. Then the next one we call it, well, the words in English are not very specific. That's why in philosophy we use Sanskrit. So like the third layer would be ATIMANAS KOSA. KOSA, it would be layer. Ati will be it's beyond, or supra. Then manas is mind, so supramental. The next one would be Vijnana. V means special. Jnana means knowledge. So the layer of a special knowledge. And then it comes another layer, which in English we could say causal, or in Sanskrit we would say HIRANMAYA.
Causal meaning sort of the first cause that would create effects.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So it would be like the base for existence of the mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, in another video, we're gonna discuss more this topic on the koshas.
Okay.
So how would you say Tantra is practiced in different spiritual organizations or in different spiritual traditions?
Tantra is actually anything related to expansion of the mind or spirituality is within the scope of Tantra. Like for example, even people who are worshipping idols.
Okay.
Which we can say, oh, that's a very, let's say, undeveloped practice. Means it's not a very simple practice. But still it's a practice. And being a practice, it comes within the scope of Tantra. But that is kind of not a very advanced practice. And then comes more advanced practices and more advanced practice. And the thing is that people also learn gradually, because one starts from where one is.
Right.
So you start from where you are, and then you take a step further and another step further. And in the tantric practice, there is a constant presence of a teacher or a spiritual teacher. We can call in Sanskrit a guru. So one learns practices, and then as one develops, can learn more practices. Now the difficulty is to find what is the minimum necessary that you have to practice so that you move at maximum speed.
Right. So I appreciate that. So you're basically not putting Tantra in any box, right?
Right.
And maybe even saying Tantra can even be, elements of Tantra can be found in Christianity.
Sure.
Because in the end, it's whatever would be expanding somebody's consciousness.
Yes. A lot depends on the teacher.
Right.
Because if the teacher knows and can teach well, then you develop quick. If the teacher teaches well but doesn't know so much, you still will learn. If the teacher doesn't know, then you will not develop much. You may do a lot, but you develop not so much. It's like everything in the world. You want to learn music, you learn from somebody who is good in music plus good in teaching.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Dada, you know, you're a teacher, right? And how do you like to approach this to a student? How do you advise somebody to learn it? How do you teach it, you know, to represent it well?
Well, I usually start from something simple.
Yeah.
That the important thing is that the people will do it.
Right.
Yeah. So it has to be something within the capacity of that individual to do it regularly.
Right.
Because that's what brings progress. Suppose somebody learns a lot but doesn't practice. It's like eating. You have a lot of food in front of you but you don't eat it.
Exactly.
You will not get nutrition.
You'll eat it tomorrow, but by tomorrow it might spoil.
Yes.
I want to jump now to another topic which is still related to Tantra, and that is to the theory of Microvita. Please tell us, what is Microvita?
Microvita was first explained by my teacher, and the title he said is the mysterious emanation of the cosmic factor. And he said that mysterious is when we don't understand something, then we call it mysterious. With that idea, it is not that easy for us to understand Microvita, but it's supposed to be the minutest particle of life. So micro, small, vita, life, and that will be plural, vita, or microvitum or vitum as singular. So this microvita will be like the minutest particle of life, or basically what creates life. It means that microvita, like a concentration of microvita, will create other beings, will create like millions of microvita joined together, let's say, will create carbon atoms, which is what we think is the origin of life. So this microvita is something even smaller than that.
And your teacher, who is Shrii Shrii Anandamurti,
right?
How do you think he was able to develop this idea? I mean, did it come intuitively? I think that's a fair question. How would you answer that question?
Yeah, it's a mental investigation, let's say. The laboratory is your mind.
Right.
And mind has capacity to perceive things that are beyond the senses.
You know, let me add something. For example, how did the yogis discover chakras? You know, when chakras are not a physical thing, it came through years and years of practice.
Yes.
And so I just want to add on to what you're saying. So likewise, something like Microvita could also be discovered due to years and years of deep practice through yoga and Tantra.
Right, exactly. Let me make an effort to give an idea. We are living in this world. So suppose I'm here, you are here, and there are trees and things around us, right?
Okay.
And how does this come into the cosmic perspective? I could make a comparison, like I am here now, and in my mind I'm thinking of a man, and this man is riding a horse.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm thinking that, or I'm dreaming that there is this horse and there is a man riding it. Okay?
All right.
That is fruit of my mental creation, or my mental imagination.
Right.
But that man who is riding the horse, for him, from his perspective, he is riding the horse, and the horse is a reality for him.
Exactly.
And he is a reality for himself. And he is riding on a field, and he sees that field. But coming in my perspective, everything is my imagination.
Right.
Now, if we think that the whole universe is the imagination of the cosmic mind, so this cosmic mind is basically thinking us,
right,
and the planets and the whole universe. So everything is within this cosmic mind. So for me, I'm here and I'm seeing this tree and I see you. It's something external to me, but we are both with everything inside this thought of the cosmic mind.
Right.
Now, if I can change my perspective from my individual mind to the cosmic mind, it means if I can connect my limited mind with this infinite cosmic mind,
wow.
then I get all that knowledge that is within the cosmic mind.
Whoa, really?
Isn't it? You get the kind of the perspective.
Wow, that's really interesting.
So that's the way that one can know everything, by connecting with the cosmic mind.
Connecting with the mind that knows everything.
That knows everything, yes.
And I've heard of that there is positive microvita and there is negative microvita.
Okay, this idea of positive microvita and negative microvita has to do with their scope of action. Like the negative microvita is related more to the more physical things, more crude manifestations of life.
Okay.
While that's the negative one. Negative. And the positive is more subtle. Let's say in the human being, the negative one will work, for the people who know about the chakras, will work in the lower chakras, and the positive will work in the higher chakras. So if the negative, let's say the negative makes you more material, more crude, and the positive makes you more subtle, more spiritual.
I've also heard of this theory of the DEVAYONIS and the PRETAYONIS. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
The DEVAYONIS are collective forms of microvita.
Okay.
Let's say there is what people call luminous body.
Yeah.
So these are the DEVAYONIS. Now these luminous bodies, they have different expressions. There is one that will encourage people to become spiritual. There is one that will encourage people in the direction of music.
All right.
Yeah. So, but these
are different categories.
Yes.
One could make you more spiritual. One could make you more artistic, or okay.
It's like a being, but it's a being that does not have the solid and liquid factor.
Okay.
Let's say our body is made of 5 fundamental factors.
Right, right.
Solid factor, liquid, luminous, aerial, and ethereal. So 5 factors. But these DEVAYONIS, they will not have neither the solid factor nor the liquid factor.
Wow.
So that's why people say luminous bodies.
Okay.
Let's say that it's a being that doesn't have the body like we have, like our body I touch. It's kind of physical, right? Solid. There is solid and there is so much liquid in my body. But there is also light, and there is also ether and air in my body.
Right.
So these beings don't have the solid part and the liquid part. Therefore, the most the dense factor that they have is the light.
Okay.
So when you see them, you will see them in form of light.
That's cool.
So it could be like a being of light.
And what about PRETAYONIS?
Well, PRETAYONIS would be, because there are other beings that don't have the solid factor, but they do have the liquid factor.
Wow, okay. So,
Yeah.
all right.
And there are myths of beings that live in water, no? Maybe those were these beings that have only the
liquid factor.
the liquid factor.
And the other ones.
Yeah. The thing is that even DEVAYONIS were known to yogis in the past. Even though, for example, my teacher, Shrii Shrii Anandamurti, he came out with the Microvita theory. You know, theories are explanations of things that are phenomena. For example, Newton came with the theory of gravity, but it's not that gravity started existing when he came up with the theory. Neither the perception of gravity was also before that.
Of course.
But he came with a good explanation about the whole thing.
Right.
So these DEVAYONIS, they've been known to yogis. So these Microvita were known to yogis. They knew about it, but they didn't have a theory that put everything together to explain the behavior and explain how it works.
Right.
So now came this Microvita theory to explain something that people had perception or perceived before, but didn't have a good theory how to explain it.
Yeah.
So that's where the Microvita theory comes.
Like Tantra. Tantra was practiced for way before Shiva, who was supposed to be then the one who made the theory, made the institution or the practices of Tantra in a package, for example.
Yeah, he kind of gave a system.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then one more question about this, just to maybe help distinguish in somebody's mind, because you know, in Tantra, in spirituality, things should be rational.
Right.
So how would you distinguish the DEVAYONIS, PRETAYONIS, the positive Microvita, the negative Microvita from things like ghosts, things from like spirits? What's a good way to distinguish those two? Because
well, people, it's in the mind of people.
Okay.
Right? Like, suppose I'm a very religious person.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm very subtle, and I can see luminous body.
Okay.
All right? So if I do that, I will think, oh, it's an angel.
Right.
Okay?
Oh, if you're a religious person. Ah, okay.
But now suppose I'm a superstitious person. I say, this is a ghost.
Oh, wow.
Right?
That's so interesting.
Okay, now most ghosts, because the people to really perceive a luminous body, you have to have a more subtle mind. So usually superstitious people will not really come in contact with these luminous beings. But many times these people, what they think are ghosts are nothing more than their own projection.
Right. Okay.
It means it's their mind playing with themselves because they are very concentrated, let's say, due to fear, and it could be two things: either just they perceive something and get that imagination, or they really project it from their mind and create it.
Right.
So their mental creation is the ghost. Means one person will think, every time that I go by that tree, I see a shadow.
Yeah.
It may be that every time he goes so concentrated that he projects that shadow there and he sees it. No. Now, as human beings, okay, even if there is a ghost, okay, let's say there is a ghost, but what can the ghost do? Because if the ghost doesn't have a physical...
Maybe we should do a video on that?
Yeah,
No,
it's
just
another,
kidding.
it's a complete other subject. But the idea is we don't need to fear existence of ghosts, because most ghosts are just our imagination.
So how can the understanding of Microvita help human beings?
Right. The thing is that the theories that we have today, the atomic theories and or in physics, they don't really explain everything.
Yeah.
Like, for example, in chemistry, in pharmacy, people make medicine. And there are situations where one company makes a medicine, another company makes also, and they use the same chemical formula, but one works and the other one doesn't work. Right? So people say, oh, this brand is good, that one is not good.
Right.
If we analyze it through chemistry, it doesn't make sense because the formula is the same.
Are the same.
So that means that my knowledge of the formula is not enough to explain everything. So something is missing in my theory, in my formula, that can't explain everything that's happening, right? So Microvita adds to that. So in Microvita theory would be like, there is this chemical formula, plus there is a certain concentration of Microvita.
Okay.
Okay, let's say because of the difference in concentration of Microvita, one formula, both being the same formula, one has more effect than the other. So it's some addition.
Okay.
Right? So this will be the benefit, that if people understand and research on this theory, they may come to a point that they can explain the different phenomena in the world in a better way, in a more exact way.
Let's say there are two aspirin companies, right? Two aspirin companies, they have the same formula, but they're working in different laboratories.
Yes.
One could improve that same formula by giving it positive Microvita. Could that mean giving it more love? Giving it, more vibration, more positive vibration?
Yes, it could be in that way, because for example, in Ayurvedic medicine, and the way the people collect the herbs is very important.
Oh yeah?
Like when you go and you collect the herb, let's say if you just do it mechanically, or if you do it a certain thought in your mind.
Right.
Okay? So the way you collect it will also influence the effect of that herb. But people can even see that, for example, in a simple activity like cooking.
Yeah.
If the cook is cooking with love and feeling good and everything, the food that you will get will taste better, will digest better.
The food here has been nice, right? We're at this retreat here by the Catskills Mountains.
Right.
Near your home, the Ananda Viplava Master Unit.
Right.
And yeah, the food has been good. They've been putting some positive vibes into it, right?
It's a more familiar atmosphere like this, and the environment is nice, so people are less stressed than, let's say, in New York City. Somebody will be very stressed in that restaurant and limited space. So yeah, all this has its own effect. Yeah, and therefore you can alter the content of the quality of the Microvita by your thoughts.
Yeah. Okay.
So different experiments are coming today, like this idea of the water having memory and all this. So these are different experiments people are doing. Maybe some are accepted experiments by the scientific community, some not. But they do have a base. And as people start researching more, then they will find out how things work. And this this theory will be developed, because the way my teacher came up with the theory, he put the main points. So there is a lot to develop on that theory. I mean, he didn't give everything ready. No? He gave the hints, and this and that and that. So it's such a vast or broad theory that to understand it and to research on it, it will take years for us human beings.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dada, so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
And his contact information is on the video. So stay tuned to the next video, everybody. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Baba Namo Kevala, Baba Namo Kevala, Baba Namo Kevala, Mo Baba Namo.